It's the governor. He makes Florida look good. Trick Daddy's contributions to and success in hip-hop are criminally underappreciated. Looking at the numbers alone, 2 platinum albums, 3 that went gold, numerous charting singles, and multiple memorable features, Trick deserves more recognition. On top of that, Trick also broke down doors for MCs coming out of Florida and brought us one of the most notable female rappers of all time, Trina. It's your man CJ Williams, and for today's episode of Culturalist Theory, we'll be doing a retrospective review of the Project Baby from the Pork and Beans that made good by ranking his 8 LPs. The only omissions will be the 2014 EP you already know, as the entire project is just an ode to the University of Miami's football team, and the 2012 mixtape Dick and Dynamite, which is a mix of freestyles and street singles. Hit the like button, subscribe, and comment what you think. Now, let's take it to the house. Number 8, Book of Thugs, chapter AK, verse 47. One of the wisest sayings you'll ever hear, 3 simple words: everybody can't go. After his breakthrough second album, www.thug.com, Trick Daddy kept it local for his third project, recording in Miami and inviting nearly all his day ones to hop in the booth. We've seen this play out before. Nelly had the St. Lunatics, Eminem had D12. When the star rises, a crew forms. Unfortunately, Trick's supporting cast doesn't shine as bright. Much of the album, especially early on, sounds like it was handed to you in a parking lot with a Sharpie labeled CD. No disrespect to the Lost Tribe, Ism, Money Mark, Society, or Buddy Rowe, especially Society, who snapped on America, but the gap in talent is glaring when you compare tracks like Boy and Sittin' on D's to heavy hitters like Trying to Stop Smoking with Mystical or Could It Be with Twista. Maybe Trick felt obligated to put his people on. Maybe he wanted to recreate the vibe of his debut, even tacking on Ho But Can't Help It from Based on a True Story. Either way, Book of Thugs leaned too heavily on the home team. It's like DJ Khaled's Victory album, local flavor that doesn't fully translate. Still, the album hit gold largely off the strength of Shut Up, relentless touring, and Trick's growing legend in the South. Number 7, Thugs R Us. Naming a hardcore gangsta rap album after a toy store chain might seem odd, but as Trick Daddy often says, Trick loves the kids. In 2001, Thugs R Us marked the continuation of his commercial ascent. It was his first of 2 platinum albums, selling nearly 2 million copies, and it produced the top 20 single on the Billboard Hot 100 with I'm a Thug. Artistically, the album improved upon Book of Thugs, delivering tracks that still resonate years later. Take, for example, the posse cut Take It to the House, featuring the full roster of Slip and Slide. It tears through the beat with horns flipped from Casey and the Sunshine Band, and James Brown's iconic Get Down ad-lib. This track became Trick's first single to break into the top 50 on the Billboard 200, though it surprisingly hasn't received a plaque. It's the kind of song that you could easily rank among the best posse cuts in hip-hop history, with Trick's verse standing out as one of his finest. Yet there's a glaring flaw on this otherwise solid album. Trick's own presence is surprisingly minimal. Out of 15 songs, excluding skits, he only raps on 12 verses, including an 8-bar interlude and the recycled America from his previous project. It often feels less like a Trick Daddy album and more like a Slip and Slide showcase. Nonetheless, there are plenty of hot moments. DJ Khaled makes one of his first major appearances on The Hotness, belting a hook that echoes his early Funk Flex impressions. Surviving the Drought features Deuce Poppington and Reasonable Doubt era Hove level lyricism, while Trina shines on For All My Ladies and Spend Some Money with Strawberry. However, on crunk tracks like Can't Fuck With Me or Where You From, you wish Trick's input were heavier. In the end, Thugs R Us stands as a testament to Trick Daddy's enduring influence, a flawed yet memorable chapter from the man whose CD we once picked up at Toys R Us for $20. Number 6, Finally Famous, Born a Thug, Still a Thug. Being descendant from people shipped in units by the millions across the Atlantic, it's oddly poetic that Trick made millions shipping millions of units for a label called Atlantic. But all things end. In 2008, after a decade, Trick Daddy parted ways with Slip and Slide and Atlantic Records. Determined to boss up, he launched his own indie, Dunk Rider Records, and dropped his 8th album, Finally Famous, in 2009. With his face etched into Mount Rushmore, he was making a statement, though the title felt ironic for someone who had been a national figure since 1999. Musically, Trick kept up with the times, delivering late 2000s Southern gangster rap like This the Shit That I Live, The Realest with Kevin Cosm, and gangsta music with Ice Billion Berg. He balanced street bangers like Count My Money with reflective tracks like Everyday Struggle and Strong Woman. Though missing an undeniable crossover hit, Finally Famous had gems for fans, including the sultry I Can Tell and the brilliant That's How We Do It with Miami legend Betty Wright. With that said, there's not much here that separates this from his previous work that would justify ranking it higher than this, though that in no way means it's not a dope record. Born a Thug, Still a Thug would sell an appalling 13,000 copies in its first week and peak at number 34 on the Billboard 200. Since it's been well over 15 years since an official Trick Daddy release, one might wonder what he has been up to lately. Well, unless you've been living under a rock, he's been a fixture on Love and Hip Hop Miami since its inception in 2018, starred in the 2010 film Just Another Day, and has been relentlessly touring off his back catalog despite his lupus causing considerable damage to his body. We wish Trick a long life and hope the Thug returns to the booth if he ever chooses to. Number 5, Thug Matrimony, Married to the Streets. Sean Carter once rapped, "Sex, murder, and mayhem, romance for the streets." Man, and I tell you, it'll be a bestseller. As hip-hop fans, we often grapple with our love for a genre that glorifies the worst of the world. After the success of his sentimental 2002 single, Thug Holiday, Trick Daddy seemed to ponder the same. On 2004's Thug Matrimony, he toned down the aggression and turned up the consciousness. Now, the album still packs some heat, fucking around with T.I., Jeezy and Case's Ruthless, and Let's Go, flipping Ozzy Osbourne's Crazy Train, became his biggest hit, peaking at number 7 on the Billboard Hot 100. The strength of that record earned Thug Matrimony a platinum plaque. After those bangers, though, the album softens. Tracks like These Are the Days, I Wanna Sang, and The Children's Song tackle social issues but lack the punch of past records. The party vibes return with the gold-selling Sugar, Menage a Trois, and Jump on the D, though Forever is one of Jazzy Faye's weakest beats. While collaborations with Ronald Isley, I Cry, and Trey Songz, Ain't a Thug, are welcome, the album leans too heavily on syrupy ballads. Like Boosie's Heartfelt, Thug Matrimony struggles with excess sentimentality. Trick recalls performing for white suburban kids around this time. While he played Sugar and In the Wind, they yelled, "We want that nigga." We'd agree. To borrow another Carter quotable, I want to rhyme like Common Sense, but I did 5 mil and I ain't been rapping like Common Sense. At this point, Trick had sold nearly 5 million, and after this album, he was never the same. Number 4, based on a true story. Thug niggas don't live that long. Before they grown, they'll be dead and gone. Trick Daddy raps on Based on a True Story, his hard-hitting debut. His life up to that point proved hip-hop could literally save lives. Born into grinding poverty in Miami's Pork and Beans projects, Maurice Young was one of 10 children raised by a single mother. After moving in with his pimp father, he and his brother Hollywood became dope boys, quickly racking up rap sheets. Though always a music lover, Trick's focus was the streets, until Hollywood was hit with a honey bun while he was locked up. That tragedy pushed Trick to take rap seriously. After featuring on Luke Campbell's Scarred, he signed to Slip and Slide. His debut album, his only one under the name Trick Daddy Dollars and only Slip and Slide album without Thug in the title, was a raw, unfiltered look at a 24-year-old who had only known struggle. It became a local smash, reportedly selling 300,000 street copies, going ghetto platinum, peaking at number 59 on Billboard's R&B chart while mysteriously missing from the rap charts. Man, who running the show over there? The album carries a loose narrative with its first 3 tracks mourning Hollywood and his name echoed throughout. Songs like They Don't Live Long capture street life's brutal precarity. The production, handled by underground Miami talent, is all booming bass and slapping drums, fueling bangers like Bout a Lot of Things, Kill Ahead, and Smoke Out. The record also embraces Miami bass on Ho But Can't Help It and Gone With Your Bad Self. While some guest features are forgettable, JT Money steals the show on Pimp. Trick's early Scarface and Spice One influences show on I Got Plans, but his authenticity bleeds through, making Based on a True Story a timeless, well-executed debut. Number 3, backed by Thug Demand. In the words of E40, this shit hard. After crossing over with Thug Matrimony, Trick Daddy returned to that unfiltered hard shit on Backed by Thug Demand. I love aggressive music. I smoke, I listen to it, he declares on the slapping Bet That with Chameleonaire. This whole album will rattle the trunk, packed with booming 808s, synths, and horns from The Runners, Kane Beats, Manny Fresh, and Gorilla Tech. T-Double has always had a sharp ear for production, and here, every beat oozes that gritty, gangsta menace that defined mid-2000s Southern rap. Lyrically, he shows growth, attacking his usual themes of guns, drugs, and thug life with fresh angles. 10 to 20 to Life marks his first true storytelling track, painting a vivid street tale. Born a Thug reimagines Tupac's Wanna Be a Thug with equal intensity. In response to Houston's rise in car culture rap, Trick pens a love letter to his dunk on Chevy. While he's not flexing his pen, he proves he doesn't have to reinvent the wheel to keep listeners hooked. Breaker Breaker, Straight Up featuring Young Buck, and Tuck Your Ice with Birdman hit harder than 80s Tyson. Meanwhile, Trick's signature freaky side shines on Booty Doo featuring Webby, while So High with 8Ball and Trey Songz brings the stoner vibes. And Tonight might be his best collab with Trina since Nan. Despite its quality, Back by Thug the Man was Trick's first album since his debut to miss a plaque. A new wave of MCs he influenced, T.I., Jeezy, and Ross, were dominating, and label politics at Atlantic stalled its promotion. Still, this album was a service to the streets. Ain't Nan skip on this motherfucker. Number 2, Thug Holiday. In a 1999 write-up on Trick Daddy in Miami News Times, hip-hop writer Sharissa Nicole had this to say about him, quote, "A lot of rappers talk about these things, but they haven't lived it, or maybe they aren't living it now. His image is real. It's really scary. He's like, what, 23 or 24? When you look in his eyes, you can tell he's seen stuff beyond his years," end quote. On his 5th album, the first verse, Trick raps on the lead song, All I Need, starts like this: "The reenacted of my first murder, with no remorse and no feelings," before continuing that the victim, quote, "begged for his life, but I still shot him," end quote. Without stooping to Trap Lord Ross or DJ Vlad levels in this piece, even those of us who listen incessantly to gangster rap can be taken aback by Trick's frankness. Of course, one can't believe everything on Thug Holiday, Trick Daddy's 2002 album that went gold in a month and became his first to debut in the top 10 on the Billboard 200, but there's fact mixed with the fiction. On the Bounty Jazzy Faye produced first single, In the Wind, Trick raps about growing up in brutal American poverty. Shared the room with about 4 brothers, but was it no more room and was it no more covers? Trick's way with words makes what should be a shameful signal on how the richest nation in history fails its poor into something danceable, as In the Wind peaked at number 70 on the Billboard Hot 100. But T-Double doesn't just let the message in his music hide behind bass and drums on this album. If one listens to his lyrics, hints are heard of a conscious MC on most of his albums, but it doesn't get more blatant than the second single, Thug Holiday. With Escape singer Latasha Scott on the hook and somber piano keys from David Banner, Trick raps 2 of his most provocative verses on government and religion. Of course, this album isn't all serious. There is fun to be had with the breezy, freaky Play No Games produced by Lil Jon, Rags to Riches and Bout Mine, both produced by Gorilla Tech, slap you across the face when those beats drop, and Rick Ross and Trick Daddy slide on the Cool and Dre produced Let Me Ride. But this album, arguably more than any that came before, contains some of Trick's finest lyrical demonstrations. See Rain It Pours, Ain't No Santa, and God's Been Good to hear the perspective of an American raised on WIC and Section 8, reflecting on 9/11, racism, partisan politics, and faith. Only 28 when he recorded this album at Patchwork in Atlanta, he sounds like a man who has seen and thought about more than his age would suggest. Number 1, www.thug.com. Out of all the albums in Trick's discography, 1998's www.thug.com deserves, if not outright needs, the most context. As we're now adrift in the sea, watching helplessly as the wave of fascism swells ever larger, ready to crash down and end our world, let's put ourselves in 1998. For anyone not old enough to remember, toward the turn of the millennium, there was a real fear that civilization would collapse once the ball dropped on December 31st, 1999. This predicted calamity was called Y2K, and a non-negligible amount of people were prepping for computer systems worldwide to cease. But Y2K was more than just doomsday propaganda created by an ever-fearful society, always anxious about enemies, foreign and domestic. It permeated the zeitgeist and influenced aesthetics. Examples of Y2K influencing culture include Nas's album Nostradamus, the sleek silver stylings of Aaliyah or TLC's No Scrubs music videos, and how Prince's apocalyptic pop song 1999 recharted in the top 40 on Billboard in 98. Trick Daddy's www.thug is also part of the music and culture that thought the world was imminently doomed, but with a paradoxical twist in its subject matter. What does the end of this world mean for a people whose time in it has only been painful? Trick says as much on the album opener for the Thugs. Is this world about to end? If not, then explain to me why I'm losing my kin. In more ways than one, black people have been living in a post-apocalyptic world since the 16th century, and this framework is not lost on Trick Daddy. He raps on songs like Run Nigga, quote, free me, I've been captured by some demons. They draining my blood, taking samples of my semen, end quote. Much like Nas on Nostradamus, Trick Daddy foresees a bleak future and a past that is a paradise lost. Back in the days, it wasn't no AIDS, it wasn't no AKs, more afros than braids, Trick laments until the darker reality hits that now, YNs with dreadlocks are quick to give out headshots. But as he romanticizes the past and mourns the future, he acknowledges, quote, "We were slaves before then, boys and maids before then," end quote, leaving one to wonder, is Trick an optimist, pessimist, nihilist, or somehow all the above? Probably the answer to those questions can be found on introspective songs like Hold On, Change My Life, and Living in a World, where Trick wrestles with the pains of street life while retaining some hope through the storm. While this album is endlessly fascinating as an artifact from the brief Y2K era of culture, it is plainly a great rap album. This is the LP that brought us Trick's breakout hit Nan Nigga, which introduced the world to Trina. It also features equally raunchy songs like I Love with Scarface, Too Short and Daz Dillinger, as well as I'll Be Your Other Man. This would be T-Double's first album to go gold, peaking at number 30 on the Billboard 200. This long requested list is finally out, so we know you're happy. Show your appreciation by joining the Theorist Tribe. Support us on Patreon, which will get you access to the CT Discord channel. After that, check out our ranking of fellow Floridian MCs, Trina, Rick Ross, and Plies right here. Until the next time, it's CJ for CT. I'm out.